minutes I can.
You can stay.
Sure.
Okay. So a few aspects, right? I mean, a small repetition on one of the things which Ritu already told is on the attribution, right? I mean, what is attribution? You observe some behavior from somebody, and now you are trying to actually link why this behavior, right? So you are attributing some kind of cause to the effect, whatever that you are actually seeing. You are actually seeing some kind of behavior, and you are trying to actually relate it. Okay, so there are multiple theories which is associated with these kind of attribution. So how you are going to relate, how you are going to predict the behavior, what are the causes that you identify, and based on the causes, what are the predictions that you are going to make out of the behavior, right? So one of the so Ritu already covered one aspect where in terms of what are the types of causes, right? Generally, you say that somebody is behaving, somebody is getting frequently angry. You're going to say that that person is like that. He actually gets angry very frequently. Kamaka chilata hai, right? So basically, it's like it is his trait. Somebody is, let's say, there is a situation where where somebody really made something which can make anybody angry. Okay, then we are talking about the situation which made it angry. So there are two things, right? One is the trait of a person, and the other is situation, which is an external thing which can actually cause that behavior. The same, so somebody did an accident, or somebody scratched your car without any reason. It was a parked car, somebody did a scratch, and you get angry about it. It's a situation which made you angry. So it's not really your personal trait, it's rather an external factor which made you angry. So these are two types of thing. One is internal cause, and the other is external cause, which is resulting into the behavior whatever that you are observing. Okay, so attributional theories, whatever the theories that we are going to actually talk about, are revolving around these causes. Okay, so two theories that we are going to talk about. One is covariation principle, and the other one is acts to disposition, which is correspondence interference theory. Okay, these are the two theories which is talking about linking the cause and whatever the behavior that you are actually observing. So what is covariance principle? So covariance principle brings both external and also internal things, and it actually kept a framework using which you can actually, it explains how you analyze the behavior. So basically, okay, if this is the behavior that you are actually predicting, this is the behavior which is causing the impression to you, how you are pinning down to the causes is what exactly covariation principle really talks about. And it covers both external and internal. Okay, so how it does? So what exactly covariation principle really is what it says is there could be multiple things that might be affecting your judgment on the behavior. Okay, so first one, so there are three different things, three different causes. Okay, so all these things are explained using three entities. One, the person who is doing it. Two, on whom he is doing. And three, what are the situations, what are the circumstances under which he is doing that, he is exhibiting that particular behavior, right? One is actor. So it's like, okay, yeah, let's say Praveen is getting angry, and he is getting angry on Ritu, which is an entity, and under what circumstances that he is getting angry, which is a situation. So these three really form the analysis for your cause. So now, taking these three things, what are the distinct factors? One is consensus. Okay. So what is consensus? So you take the situation, okay, and you analyze the situation. So internally, this thought process happens all internal, okay, right? I mean, he's just explaining how exactly you're going to pin down the cause. First thing that anybody would actually do is, under the same circumstance, will everybody behave the same? You compare people. You say that, okay, yeah, Praveen became angry now. How would somebody else behave in this situation? Given that this is the situation, how somebody else will behave? If you think that others will also behave in the same way, then it is not Praveen's problem. It is not Praveen's internal issue. It is the situation issue, right? So that is consensus. So you are comparing people under the similar circumstances or similar situations, and then you are determining that, oh yeah, is this Praveen's problem or is this situation problem? Okay. So now the second way that you actually analyze, you analyze the situation based on the situation. Okay. So here person remains same, Praveen remains same. So the analysis that you would do is he frequently getting angry, whether he is really an angry person, even for the smaller issues he displays anger, then it is again the person problem. If he is not really exhibiting the same behavior in all situations, in different situations, then it doesn't really become the Praveen's problem. That is distinctiveness, how distinct he is behaving in a particular situation. Is he behaving same in all the situations? Here person remains same, you are varying the situations. The third thing that you would actually analyze is how the behavior is in general. So what is the consistency, right? So given the same situation, given the same person, is he getting angry always? So if somebody behaves in this way, is it definite sure shot that he's going to get angry, or it just happened today? No, it generally doesn't happen, but it just happened today. So that is consistency. So given the person same and also situation same, you are talking about consistency in which it really happens. Taking all these three criteria, we analyze and come to some kind of a conclusion on the causes. So based on that, we actually have our own theory saying that, oh yeah, in this situation he gets angry, or on a particular person he becomes angry. So you actually pin down the causes based on all these three. Okay. So if you see, I mean, just the same aspect, right? If the behavior is same in all the situations, then you are talking about, if it is same, then it is low distinctiveness. That means it is internal problem, that is person's problem. Okay. So is this behavior so this particular table really talks about the mapping in which you actually come to a conclusion on when it is an internal cause, when it is an external cause, right? As I explained here, right, you compare two people and say that both the people really do the same in this situation. That means it is definitely a situation problem, that is, it is an external problem, right? If it is a low consensus, then it is an external problem. If it is high consensus, then it is person's problem, right? If it is low consistency, no, it is very less consistent, then it is person problem. If it is highly consistent, then it is external problem. That means under this situation, it is likely that the so and so behavior is going to occur. So this framework, net to net, what it really tells is, okay, yeah, how you really analyze and attribute the cause to a particular behavior, right? So any doubts on this particular theory at this stage?
No.
Okay. So now going to the next theory. It is called as a correspondence inference theory. Correspondence inference theory Unlike the above theory, it doesn't cover external factors at all. It only explains how you analyze a particular person. So how you are going to judge a particular person is exactly what this theory really talks about. That means it is concentrating only on internal causes, not really an external cause. How you are actually going to conclude on somebody. So a simple fact that it really says is how you are going to judge somebody. You are going to judge somebody based on his actions. So what he does, what she does, is what you actually perceive her, he or she. So if somebody is actually behaving in this way, you over the time you actually form an impression saying that this is how he is, right? So the actions are the main thing that this particular theory really talks about. That is why the theory is acts to dispositions, right? So your actions are the ones which are judging the disposition. Okay, so there are two things that would actually come into picture while you are judging acts to the dispositions. Okay, so one is social desirability. So what is social desirability? So if somebody is doing something which is uncommon, which generally others doesn't do. Somebody got into a metro and sat on the floor, even though there is a seat which is available. Right? You tend to actually pin down that, oh yeah, this person is odd. The moment you see something which is not so common, you immediately form an impression about that particular person. The act is not so common. The act is something that others don't do. That is social desirability. And the second way is non-common effects. So what you do here is, see, here you actually judge based on the the choice that the person is going to make. So let's say he has got an option to choose a holiday destination, right? And somebody chose an holiday destination of let's say Pondicherry versus Coorg, right? He has got two choices. One is Coorg and the other is Pondicherry, and somebody chose Pondicherry. So immediately you say that, oh yeah, this person likes beach because he chose Pondicherry over Coorg, right? So based on the choice that he makes, you come to a conclusion that, oh yeah, this person is like this. But the problem with this is, if these choices are similar, then you making the impression, the chances of you making the impression would be less. For example, the choice is between Pondicherry and Goa, right? And somebody chose, Pondicherry or Goa, whatever it is. Then you can't really come to a conclusion that he likes beaches or he doesn't like beach, because both are beach destination. How does a choice really make you enabled to make the judgment? You can't really judge that particular behavior at all, right? So here correspondence inference theory is all about how exactly a person acts are making you to judge his personality. Okay. So any doubts on this particular theory?
No.
Okay. So now beautiful. So how actually this attribution theory is applicable to the education? Okay. So so here what education really, how this is attribution is going to drive the education. So there is one very specific thing about the entire attribution acts or somebody's behavior, right? There is a concept called as motivation. So motivation, what we see is motivation is one thing which actually really makes a person to act on something. So it is like a psychological stimulus which would actually tend to make people go towards certain action, right? So we also talked about how action is related to behavior, right? So now how motivation is important to behavior, we can link these two. So Weiner, who actually came up with this particular theory, he linked motivation and behavior attribution. Because motivation is driving actions and actions are driving behavior. So motivation and behavior is linked, right? So, so, so coming to the part of applicability in education, right? So Weiner defined that, okay, how exactly the entire how people really interpret the success and failure of whatever that they are actually doing. Partly this Ritu has covered, right? There are 4 aspects which are ability, effort, task, difficulty, and luck. So ability is something which is a person's inherent ability to do a particular thing, and effort is what is the effort that is going to actually spend. And the third is how difficult is the task and how exactly lucky he is. So based on these 4 factors, there are various things which are which somebody can actually interpret the success and failure of it. So there are certain factors which are controllable. There are certain factors which are uncontrollable. Ability is something which cannot be controlled. Effort is something that can be controlled, right? How stable it is depending upon all the situations. Ability doesn't change. It is always same. But effort depends on the person and it might change. Luck also an external one. It might change. A difficulty of task would also change depending upon the task and other things, right? And whether some are internal and some are external. Ability and effort is something which depends on the person. Luck and task difficulty is something depends on the external factor. So from the education point of view, the success and failure is something that could be analyzed based on these particular 4 categories as such, and people make judgments on all these factors. Somebody might say that I'm unlucky. Somebody might say that, yeah, I spent more effort and all those stuff which Ritu has spoken about. So this particular table really talks about internal and external, what is internal, what is controllable and what not. Okay, so last concept, which is on Beam's self-perception theory. So this is all about a Beam who is a person who tried to actually give a very different view on the self-perception. So generally what we tend to think, the attitude of the person is the one which is driving the behavior, right? So we talked about actions to behavior. So this is attitude to behavior. If somebody is having certain attitude, that is the one which is driving the behavior. So let's say if I like biking, okay, I like to actually cycle, then I might go and buy the cycle, right? My behavior of buying the cycle depends on my attitude towards cycling. That's what we think, right? But Beam thinks other way. Beam thinks that it is behavior which is driving the attitude. So it is not really the other way. So what he says is, it's not that we actually, our attitude is driving the behavior. It is our behavior which is driving the attitude. We frequently cycle, hence we think that we like the cycle. It's not the other way. So that's exactly what Beam really thinks. So he really questions the general way of understanding between attitude and behavior. So what he says is, so by self-observing our behavior, we develop our attitude. It is not the other way. So we keep observing our behavior over the time. Based on my behavior, oh yeah, I do all these things. That means I like this or I don't like this. So this is how I develop my attitude towards it rather than the other way. Okay. And what he also says is, generally when we induce the attitude, right, we don't really analyze our internal cognition and moods. We just see the behavior, based on that we actually develop the attitude, but our analysis on the cognition and moods is not really done. So we don't completely analyze the internal cognition. Okay, and we tend to analyze our attitude similar to how we analyze the others. So there is no difference between analyzing the self attitude or analyzing the others attitude. So these are the points which Beam really talked about. So that actually ends the unit. Anything else that I missed, Ritu? You want me to talk about something, or?
No, you covered everything. And there's something called understanding one's own behavior, that is, social comparison, using others to understand oneself. So this is very similar to whatever Praveen said now.
Yeah.
So using others to understand yourself. Sometimes like you compare yourself, right, to perform better, and that's not bad again. Because the world is competitive, and with comparison, you again might move forward. You can do it in a positive way. So that's like, yeah, using others to understand yours, oneself. So you can understand yourself by comparing.
So I think if there are no questions, we can stop the recording.
Yes.